In 2020, Poland's presidential elections proceeded despite the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, at the time, the ruling Law and Justice Party attempted to organize a vote in the midst of the crisis, bypassing procedures and acting unlawfully. Now, this is what the newly released Parliamentary Commission report concluded just earlier today. And joining me now to further explore this, I'm pleased to welcome Marcin Bosacki, a Polish MP from the Civic Coalition. Mr. Bosacki, thank you so much for being with us here on World News Tonight on TVP World.
Good evening.
So now, this report came out today. It was a highly protested decision to conduct these elections in 2020. And the questions that we ask ourselves here is whether these elections actually met the constitutional requirement. Were they fair? Were they reliable? Now, Mr. Bosacki, how close was Poland to face a constitutional crisis at the time?
No, it was pretty close because the ruling party, PiS, wanted to push unconstitutional elections at the time with Mr. Duda, obviously their candidate, because the public opinion polls were okay for him. But they did wanted to do it by totally vote by mail, avoiding which constitution clearly states the National Election Committee and putting the organizing work of the elections in the hands of National Post, which was first never heard of in Poland history, and second, it was clearly against the law. And what prevented that was actually the actions of the Polish Senate, which at that time I was a member of, which delayed the voting on the law enabling this to happen, and secondly, of majority of Polish local authorities, the presidents of cities, the heads of smaller local municipalities like villages, which didn't provide National Post with the list of citizens required and able to vote. So it didn't happen by a small margin of error, but nevertheless, the government at that time spent at least 80 million zlotys on the elections which didn't happen. And which shouldn't have happened. So the Special Investigative Committee of Polish Parliament now presented today its final report, requesting the prosecutor's office to file cases against the former Prime Minister Morawiecki, at that time Deputy Prime Minister Jarosław Kaczyński, and many others, including Mr. Sasin, the very powerful minister at that time, because you cannot do something what is first against the law and second to spend millions and millions of taxpayers' money to waste.
Earlier today, we heard one of the members of the Law and Justice Party say that this was actually what's going on was a witch hunt against that leadership. What can you comment on this?
No, Prime Minister Donald Tusk said it, I think, yesterday, that when our base, the pro-democratic coalition base, people who voted for us and voted PiS government out of the office a year ago, is accusing us of being too slow in dealing with obvious cases of breaking the law during the 8 years of PiS government, And at the same time, PiS is accusing us of witch hunt and even torturing some of the people who are in jail already for cases of fraud or bribery and others. Therefore, probably we are doing something quite okay. That this path which Prosecutor General and Minister of Justice, Mr. Bodnar, chose to go, so to go as quickly as possible, but according to law, with no shortcuts being made, but the prosecutor's office is taking every case one by one and investigating that and then putting to courts. This is okay.
So, Mr. Bosacki, should this leadership, the top politicians of the Law and Justice Party, should they be convicted? What are some of the consequences that we're looking at?
You know, it's not for a politician, active politician as myself, to suggest to the courts what they should do. But I'm absolutely sure that the Polish prosecutors, independent prosecutors, this is the difference between what's going on now and what PiS tried to do and in many cases did during the last 8 years, that independent prosecutors will look into the cases and then most likely, I think, present their cases to the courts. And then courts, with the full guarantee of defense for PiS politicians, will decide whether they committed crimes or not.
What role do you think the Polish president played in all of this?
You know, he was a candidate at that time. I don't think there's any, at least I don't know of, any proof that he himself wanted or manipulated the other branches of government to do those earlier elections in 2020 by post, by mail, to be conducted. You know, then it was horrible because nobody knew who actually would count the votes.
But at the end, he won anyway. I mean, Duda won anyway.
Yes. 2 months later, he won by a very, very small margin of votes. But then it was made as the law requires that to be made. So in the polling stations with full possibility of campaigning, although at that time TVP was extremely biased towards him and criticized the opposition candidate, Mr. Trzaskowski, all the time, 24 hours by 7. But, you know, it was legitimate elections. The one they wanted to do and for which they spent over 80 million zlotys were absolutely illegitimate.
And just very briefly, because we're almost out of time, Mr. Bosacki, I just want to shift you on a little bit of another topic here in Poland that's coming out with this spat between recalling back ambassadors and the Polish president and prime minister not being able to see eye to eye. What do you think are the broader implications of this dispute? I mean, you were Poland's ambassador to Canada. I had the pleasure of meeting you in Ottawa when I still lived there. What is the dispute, the broader implications for this between the ruling party and its relationship with the president, just briefly?
It's very unfortunate because President is stonewalling the government's effort to send new ambassadors to, in some cases, like Israel, there is no Polish ambassador for over 3 years because of the crisis in Polish-Israeli relations made by the previous PiS government with Israel over 3 years ago. So now we want to send new envoys to many countries. And President, it would be, reasonable if he would say in 1 or 2 or 3 cases, I prefer another candidate. That's his role in Polish government system, constitutional role. But he refuses to sign the documents for new ambassadors, for over 50 ambassadors now, most of them highly trained professional diplomats. That's horrible for the interests of the country.
And to see how all this will play out in a relatively close period of time. Thank you so much, Mr. Marcin Bosacki, Polish MP from the Civic Coalition. Thank you so much for being with us here on World News Tonight on TVP World. And that's all for this edition here of World News Tonight on TVP World. I'm Diana Skaya. Thanks for watching.